All right. Hello, welcome. You can sit. Come on. Thanks for coming. I wasn't actually expecting that many people because I know everyone here has already mastered their environmental footprints and they are already really confident with the semiconductor crisis and with their electricity supply, so they don't need to come here at all. So that's fine. But thanks for coming, for real, because here you're a bit out of your comfort zone, perhaps. Oh, sorry, you thought I was about to tell you that things will keep on going like that forever and that you can rely on a predictable future? Wrong keynote, wrong keynote. But now it's too late, because if you leave now, people will notice, and so you're stuck on your chair, and you just have to listen to me for another 20 minutes. Sorry, but thank you, because if you're here, perhaps you want some pragmatic action and clear thinking on fighting climate change. And that's exactly what I'm about to tell you. So today, 80% of the energy we consume comes from fossil fuels, right? 80%. And this creates climate change, you know this. And to meet, oh, come on, Mike. Is it fine? All right, it keeps moving, sorry. So, to meet the Paris Agreement, which means to limit climate change well below 2 degrees, we must cut down our emissions by 30% in 7 years. This is well before your newborn kids leaves primary school. This is minus 3% per year. Sorry, I'm speaking minus percent per year. You're used to plus X blah blah percent per year. Now it's minus 3% of emissions per year. And otherwise, we would face a plus 4 degree world. Plus 2 degrees, plus 4 degrees. I'm already hearing the smart calculation guy in the background being like, hey, plus 2 degrees doesn't sound that much. And plus 4 degrees is like 2 plus 2 equals 4, so it does not sound that much more than plus 2 degrees, right? So why would I do anything? Alas, climate science doesn't work that way. Plus 2 degrees is huge. Imagine the last ice age here in Montpellier, south of France. We would be like surrounded by snow everywhere. Plants will be like Russian tundra without the tanks. And there would be perhaps Scrat in the background with its acorn, like the last ice age here. And Paris would be under 2 kilometers of solid ice. This was 20,000 years ago. And the difference between the last ice age climate and today's climate is only 5 degrees. So, plus 2 degrees is huge. And plus 4 degrees is a nightmare. Imagine for ourselves, for our ecosystems, switching from plus 0 to plus 2 to plus 4 in less than 300 years instead of 20,000 years. That would be ridiculously impossible to adapt. So plus 4 degrees, nightmare. Even the difference between plus 1.5 and plus 2 is huge. And that's what scientists have proven. Every fraction of degree counts. Every ton of CO2 counts. So, I was talking about action. But that's what we're about today. And today, I have good news for you. First good news, it all comes from the sciences of the IPCC, of course. First good news is our future climate lies in our hands. We can, in fact, actually do something about it. And that's a really good news. Second good news is the solutions we need already exists. And the third good news is the word out there, if we fight climate change efficiently, is a much brighter future than if we do nothing. So these are great news. And perhaps the techno enthusiast in you says, oh yes, I've heard about this carbon capture and so on technologies allowing us to, I don't know, store crazy amounts of carbons in the ground and so on. I'm not even talking about those technologies. Of course, technology can help. But I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about, not talking about any technology. I'm talking about a process. The powerful process of changing paradigm and walking the talk. So, what can you do? As tech companies, perhaps? You know, the IT sector accounts for 4% of global emissions. 4% is big. It's like as much emissions as all the trucks worldwide. So you imagine all the trucks stuck in a traffic jam, you know, that's the emissions of the IT sector today. And these emissions are rocketing up. So, what can you do about it? At Carbon 4, we've developed the now worldwide recognized framework called Net Zero Initiative to help companies understand better their climate action and have a rigorous framework for ambitious action. And it's as easy as ABC. A, reduce your emissions. B, helping others reduce their emissions. And C, developing carbon sinks. Developing carbon sinks means improving your agricultural and forestry practice so that you store more carbon in the soils and more carbon in the trees. So it's nothing really to do with the IT sector, sorry. And that's why I want to expand on this. I will focus on A and B. Because reducing emissions is #1 priority. So, I can still hear Mr. Smart Calculation guy in the background. He's done his, oh yeah. He's done his equations pretty well, and perhaps he's saying, hey, can't we do A plus B plus C equals 0 and pretend we're carbon neutral? What's your name? Donald. No, Donald, you cannot do that. That's not how climate science works, and that's not either how carbon accounting works. So, what does proper action sound like? I know someone who, just by code optimization and energy monitoring, has saved €500,000 on the electricity bills of a data center. That's what proper action sounds like. In a company I'm working for, they can save 300 tons of CO2 per year just by changing their data center's location. Or even better, by improving the practice of their data center's supplier. So that's what proper action sounds for the tech sector on Pillar A, reducing emissions, your own emissions. Pillar B is about business whose sole purpose is to help others reduce their impact on the environment. And today I would just like to name perhaps Green Spectre. He could not come, but Thierry Lebouc and Green Spectre. I would name as well the Boa Vista project, helping companies understanding their footprints and finding reduction levers. And of course, you will have the opportunity to meet people from SWEEP to help companies, not just tech companies, but all companies understanding and mastering their carbon footprint. So this is Pillar B, all right? And so, with all this, in fact, you will notice that companies have 3 levers to work on climate. First lever is sufficiency. Sufficiency, I will read you the proper definition of the IPCC. Sufficiency means avoiding the demand for material and resources, and energy, while delivering a decent living standard for all within planetary boundaries. And it's an amazing definition, especially if you're working in the SaaS industry, as Steve said. Because this is exactly what Lean Startup is about. It's about meeting your customers' needs, no more. So, sufficiency. And for sufficiency, the as-a-service mindset is great. The AAS mindset is great because it counters planned obsolescence. Imagine, I'm taking a totally non-tech example, a bit tech notes. Imagine I have a fridge as a service contract. Awesome. Because I don't need to replace my fridge every few years. And so when I'm the fridge conceptor and the service provider, I will design my fridge so they last longer and so they consume less energy because all these costs are for me, they're not for my end customer, right? So as a customer, I get the fridge, I get my vegetables cooled down and so they can last longer. And as a company, I can totally master the various costs and therefore I will not go into an planned obsolescence scheme to increase my sales. I just have to do my job properly and provide the service. So perhaps we can even imagine further and imagine a food conservation as a service. I don't know. Perhaps if you want to create a startup in the next 3 days, just call me afterwards. No. I mean, this could be a great lever, and it's the first lever. Second lever is efficiency. Efficiency means doing the same thing, but optimized in the most efficient way possible to consume less resources. So this is most of the jobs of the engineers, for example, worldwide. And the point with efficiency, and particularly in the tech sector, when it's like really, really obvious, is to avoid rebound effects. So what is rebound effect? Rebound effect is when you do something better in a more efficient way, but instead of using this performance to consume less, you use it to consume more. And I take an example. We are now able to make really high performance engines for cars. So we've got engines consuming much less oil, much less fuel than 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and so on. And instead of driving the same cars with better engines and consuming less, we've just bought bigger cars with high-performance engine. And so we are actually emitting more emissions than before, but our engines are better. That's the Jevons paradox, also called rebound effect. So that's the thing to avoid, the obstacle to avoid when talking about efficiency. Third lever, once you have reduced the need to the essential need of your customer, once you have found solutions to meet this need very efficiently, you can start switching to low carbon energy. And I can still hear Donald in the background, sorry, he's talking loudly. And he says like, hey, can I just keep the first 2 steps and buy green energy certificates and pretend my carbon footprint is 0 because I'm buying green energy? No, that's not how it works. It's windy still today. That's not how it works, Donald. Imagine thinking you can just say your energy carbon bill is 0 because you're buying green energy certificates, saying that is equivalent to paying people to jump. And then pretend that you have launched your satellite into outer space with the energy of the jump. It's a nonsense. That's not how rocket science works. That's not how electricity science works. So you can do things still about low carbon energy supply. And I've worked with companies doing something amazing, which is synchronizing with electricity map, having the carbon footprint in real time and of the electricity they consume, and synchronizing electricity map with their power purchase agreements, so contracting for electricity production, in order to match at an hourly rate their electricity demand and supply, and therefore achieving really physically relevant green energy. And that's amazing. But this is subtle. Perhaps you've noticed that this is subtle. And you will need training. Sorry, I still need training as well. But you will need training, and your teams will need training when addressing climate change. And to start with, Climate Collage is a very efficient workshop. So, you have trained yourself, you have started with sufficiency, efficiency, switching energy, and C. And in fact, you will start noticing that your environmental impact is deeply connected with your strategy as a company. Carbon footprints are a strategic tool to understand your dependency on fossil fuels. Your environmental footprint is the measure of your fitness for tomorrow's world. And at Carbon 4, that's exactly what we do. We help companies getting fit for tomorrow's world. So this is all about strategy. It's not about CSR and so on, reporting, blah, blah, blah. No, it's about strategy. It's about your supplies, it's about your customers, it's about your resilience, your ability to face shocks. And you've seen that, perhaps, in the last few months, which kind of shock we could have in a decarbonizing world. So, I would like to point out the fact that working on your strategy with your environmental impacts, reducing your environmental impacts, offers great opportunities. And at Carbon 4, we've started noticing companies doing what I call reverse lobbying. You know, lobbying is like when companies go and see the governments and say, hey, we don't need regulation on that, or we don't need constraints on that because we are already doing the job properly. And reverse lobbying would be like, hey, I've actually done some pretty good work about reducing my carbon footprint, and my competitors haven't. So let's enforce constraining laws, and therefore I will transform my advance on these topics into a competitive advantage. And I've started noticing that, perhaps not in the tech sector yet, but in other sector, industry sector, and so on. And if you've got a good memory, you can remember that some tech companies, some big tech companies, actually did that for the RGPD. You know, data protection in Europe. Some companies actually did lobby in order to enforce a very constraining RGPD because they were already really advanced on this topic. They had really a competitive advantage on this. And so they lobbied in order to enforce this law. So reducing carbon footprint leads to great opportunities. And data protection was first, but climate is next, I tell you. So, finally, to fight climate change, you will need to update your story. What does it mean? It means transparency, humility, and honesty. Let's start with honesty. Honesty starts with being honest with yourself. Is your business model fit for a low-carbon world? Does your activity make sense in a low-carbon world? And answer this question, but answer this question for your customers as well. They want to know. And ask yourself the questions and have the honesty to pivot, if it's not the case, to find other solutions and other markets. Or if you found that your business is relevant for a low-carbon future, then tell your customers. Next is transparency. We need, thank you. It was a bit sunny out there. So, transparency. We need the figures. Show your figures, explicit your carbon footprint. We need transparency across the whole value chain for leaders to take action with proper data. You're in the data industry, perhaps. We need data for climate as well, so explicit it. There is no shame about having a big carbon footprint or small carbon footprint. It means a lot of different things. So communicate on this. Give the figures. Your doctor needs the truth to cure your cancer, right? It's the same. Last, but most important, is humility. Fighting climate change is hard, all right? No one will blame you for not coming with an incredible solution, solving everything in less than 2 months, and you get a refund if it's not the case, and so on. No. Fighting climate change is hard, and it's okay to struggle. So share your struggles, share your hardships, and perhaps out there you will meet people with the same hardships, and perhaps you can sit down together at the same table and find solutions. Or perhaps there are even already people with solutions for you. So share your hardships with humility. And these are the keys for proper climate communication. Customers come to me and say, hey, how do I communicate without doing greenwashing? I've just explained it. Honesty, transparency, humility. And if you're stuck on this, stay calm. Stay calm, Donald. This is normal, all right? It's normal to be stuck in the discourses of inaction. And what I'm showing you today, I hope, is the bright course of action. So as a final call, I would like you to take your phone out and not to sing We Are the Champions with the flashlights and so on. No. Just take your phone out and open your agenda and book a meeting. Not with me, but with yourself and with your teams. And book this 2 hours meeting next week to think and talk about climate and climate change and how it is impacting your business and how your business is impacting it. Ask yourself, is my business model fitted for a low-carbon world? Ask yourself, what are my beliefs about climate change? And do I need to update those beliefs? And if yes, how? And to help you on this meeting, I will send you some kickstarting resources, some links, things to read, videos to watch. I'll put them in the comments of this video as well, so that you're not alone in the dark forest and so on, so that you have already a path. And many people have been through this path. So you will find plenty of helpful resources for you to help you with this meeting. So, is the meeting booked? Yeah, not quite. Yeah, okay, good. People can change fast. You've seen it with COVID in an unpleasant way, all right? So imagine what could people do with a powerful story of a brighter future? You, entrepreneurs, tech companies, you excel at creating disruptive change. It's great because that's exactly what we need today. Climate change is the biggest threat humanity has ever faced. So, welcome on board. The future lies in your hands. Thank you.